and school outreach meeting October 9th, 2025, and we're talking about bagging recyclables in schools and some of the concerns that custodians have, um, for the cleanliness of recyclables throughout the school and contaminating the end material and stuff. And I just see that Mia is joining on early. And so, yes, Rhonda, if you want to share your thought, and then we'll hop over to Mia.
Yeah. So I just it was funny you said you got to check in with Casella because there is conflicting messages coming out from Casella drivers. It's not necessarily Casella as a whole, but it's like the drivers. And so I just got a message the other day from a school. They are talking like the kids were watching Casella pick up the recycling, and paper was flying everywhere, and they helped the truck driver pick up all of the paper or whatever. And the driver came over and said, quote, you can line your recycling bin with clear plastic bags. As long as they are clear, CSWD told us they would take them, unquote. Not
Okay.
bagged shredded paper, which we don't want either, but that would be understandable because we accepted that for years. But nobody has ever told him from CSWD. But there's disconnect between the drivers and I think like the higher ups in Casella as well. Of like, so that might be where some of this is happening. Because that was
Yeah.
like general bag your recycling, and it's like no. And I heard the same thing from a Casella driver at another school last year
Okay.
to
Yeah.
bag
And
their
then,
recycling.
yeah. And then I think also there's that. And then it's like, so maybe some of them actually are saying bag your recyclables. We have examples of that, obviously. And then, drivers are then not doing it, not just advising people to not, like, they don't provide feedback, even if they know recyclables shouldn't be bagged. Like the school, said, we've been doing this for 4 years. And I asked, like, well, they never reached out and said anything. And he said no. And so, yeah, I do think it is worth reaching out to the contact that I have. It's for the 91 corridor. But, just to make them aware that there is this confusion about bag recycling, because as we know, it gets caught in the machinery at the receiving facility. Like, we all know this. I was trying to explain it to the person, and he was like, as he did mention paper as well, flying everywhere, and just how it would be a big issue. Like, he kept saying it'd be a really big issue. And I was like, that's where it's like, I need to do my due diligence before I like tell you to change your operations. Um, but yeah, since Mia is here, Mia, if you could chat with us about properly containing and disposing of failed lithium-ion batteries.
Sure, it's my favorite thing. Hi everyone, nice to see you all. Nice small group. And yeah, so John, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right? You discovered a bunch of chrome, um, I forget what they were, but some type of tablet that had bloated batteries in it.
Yeah, there was can you guys hear me okay? So there was in one of my school visits, I ended up, long story short, in the IT room for this particular school and was talking about batteries, not necessarily lithium batteries from a Chromebook, but that's where the conversation ended up at. He had Chromebook batteries that had been removed that were bloated, and he had them sitting under his desk in a metal, one of those green metal old-fashioned ammunition cases. And he also had a stack of swollen Chromebooks, the battery still in them. So I think they're out of the school now. That's ongoing. But
Did
yeah,
they bring them to you all?
What's that?
Did they bring them to you?
They're telling me they found another outlet, and I'm trying to figure out what they actually found and what they did with them. That was the plan, to have them bring them to us, even though our facility's not open, so we can get them in a DDR kit. First thing I told them was get them out of the school, get them into a bucket full of sand, and then bring them to us. They're telling me they found another outlet, and I'm still trying to get clarity on what that outlet was.
Yeah, I'd love to know
Yeah.
if you find out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first thing is if you encounter a school, I know you all know this, but yeah, just to say it again, if a school's got a damaged lithium ion battery, get it outside in a bucket of sand with a cover on it. I mean, we're encouraging the facilities, our solid waste facilities, to all have that on hand. It's a simple, easy thing, right? A bucket of sand with a lid. And I think that could be valuable for a school to have, not only for these types of damaged lithium ions, but for the dreaded vape device that gets dropped on the floor and smushed or whatever. And then in terms of collection, all of your facilities are going to have damaged defective kits available to them. And so at this point, I'm directing everyone with a damaged defective battery to an HHW facility. And there will also be transfer stations collecting them too. It's going to expand with the expansion of the Call to Recycle program. Get them out of the school, right? We don't want the school hanging on to this stuff. And the cost for the damaged defective battery will be covered by the manufacturers. If folks have stuff now that they collect, prior to January to the program starting, if you can store it safely until then, do so, and then run it through the program on January 2nd. That's totally fine to do.
I have
So
a
I
question.
feel, yep, go ahead.
So when the new program starts in January, is it going to be an option for the schools to get those nice drums? No. That'd be
No.
awesome.
Well, yeah, I talked about this with John. The statute doesn't say manufacturers have to pay for DD kits for everybody who ends up with a lithium ion battery. So we'd be overreaching and saying you need to just supply these to schools. There's also an efficiency and kind of a waste thing, Pam, and I dare, if Josh hears me say this, but I know there's some DD kits that we bought for the facilities right now, right, a couple years ago, that
Yeah.
got lost. And that sucks. That's $100, or more. So I think we want to think about how to do this well, and who's going to have some training. And we want to direct the damaged defective batteries. We want to get them out of the school and into the hands of someone who can handle it better, is the first goal. I hear you about I would feel better if they had a DD kit in the school instead of a bucket of sand. It seems, but I can't make that happen. At this point, like, we can't require the manufacturers to provide that. I think schools could voluntarily purchase those if they wanted. But again, I don't want to go out recommending that, because then all the schools and supervisory unions will be saying, what? You're saying I have to spend all this money on a damaged defective kit? So for now, I really think the best thing is you all being that conduit,
Do you
and
think
helping
that they're
them
going
manage
to
their.
start, sorry, do you think they're going to start collecting those bigger batteries at the schools, or do you think they're really just going to be dealing with the small batteries that they've been collecting?
I mean, I'm not psyched about schools collecting any batteries, honestly, right? Unless it's the school that's under the training of the awesome Rhonda Mace and they did a battery blitz, right? And even with that, the facility staff, got stuck. I don't think schools are good battery collection sites, and I voiced that to Call to Recycle. It's not something I want to expand on, and we have 180 collection sites without schools. We don't need to be collecting
Don't
batteries
worry.
in schools. Schools
Yep.
need to collect their own batteries from their facility operations and ship them or get them to their district HHW facility or recycling center. Not to pontificate, sorry, I feel like I'm saying I so much, but yeah, that's not anywhere we want to expand.
Actually, Mia, if I can interrupt you for a second, my
Sure,
understanding
please
is
do,
what
because I'm talking too much.
what Call to Recycle wants is the schools, generally speaking, to have an account with them, and to be shipping batteries back and forth versus using like our facility to collect their batteries and then bring them to. Call to Recycle is not saying don't do that, but my understanding is they prefer a school to actually have an account with them.
And that's fine
That
for
sounds
their
like
own
it's a
batteries.
volume
If
thing.
I just don't think that, and I can talk more about that with call to recycle, but I just don't want us to be encouraging public collection of batteries at schools.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not where we need to go. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
No, I agree. I just wanted to mention that
Yeah.
because yeah.
Yeah.
I had a specific question regarding storing the batteries in sand. One of my coworkers suggested storing them in a metal bucket in case there's a thermal event. The metal bucket won't melt down the way a plastic bucket will. But you brought up a really good point. The metal bucket itself, if a battery terminal comes in contact with it, could itself potentially start a thermal event. So I'm still kind of looking for clarity on that. I
Wait,
don't
the
know
metal
what
bucket could start what?
if the terminals from a battery come in contact with the metal in the bucket, that could potentially, I think, start a thermal event.
Okay.
And I don't know what like the DDR kits, the drums and all are made of.
Those the DD kits, they're all, well, they have the cell block, right? And there are the metal, there's metal drums. And then there's also the smaller kit that has the cell block liner. It's like a pad within the cardboard that the damaged battery goes in. I've been seeing the bucket of sand as like a stopgap measure and not a long-term storage thing. Ooh, I'm a school, I've got a puffy battery, I get in a bucket of sand and I call John and say, I want to get this out of here. And yeah, and thinking about 5-gallon plastic buckets are pretty readily available is also where I was coming from with that. But
And best practices is you're keeping like you add batteries, you put the lid on, right? So you're not giving it oxygen.
that's
So
separate. Yeah, I guess so we're kind of confusing two things. I mean, basically this bucket of sand is the like, I'm stuck with this damaged battery, I want to keep it safe. And then separately, with the expansion of the new program, Call to Recycle is moving towards having facilities collect in the one drum, Alex. And that cell block, you're gonna be able to have cell block, add batteries, add another layer of cell block, add batteries, that kind of thing. And terminals don't have to be protected, but that's separate. Schools aren't going to be collecting that way. That's going to be for solid waste facilities.
Hey, Mia, when do you think they'll get the DDR kits out? Are they gonna still thinking about like December or something, so they'll be ready to implement in
Plan to
January?
get new supplies out for the high watt batteries and for damaged and defective in November and December, and they're going to be reaching out to all of you in terms of what your facility needs are and decide, if it's a smaller facility, they're going to stick with the collection boxes. Have your regular one for the batteries under 11 pounds and then have a box for the high watt 300 and up. Or if you're going to move to the one drum for those who have taken large numbers of batteries. So that's on Call to Recycle to be reaching out to all of you and getting those numbers for supplies. Yeah, if there's anything that comes up with that, please let me know because they're supposed to be taking care of that.
I just
So
want to
you
know
got
about,
sorry.
oh yeah, I
You've
just
got
want to
a-
note about, oh
Nope.
yeah, the thermal runaway. You had mentioned like covering or not covering, the bucket. Thermal runaways can happen. Like oxygen isn't actually like a player in it. It's more the puncture of it. And then it like releases these sparks from all the good stuff going on in the battery. And then oxygen plays a role once it catches other things on fire, and so that's why having it contained within the sand, because the sand will ultimately just like melt if it's that
Smother.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just because the fire has no place to go, it's not going to catch any paper materials like
It also
that's are
helps if you
near
have
it.
it outside because rain coming into the bucket too, just making it another added layer, right? Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you, Shannon.
I'm sorry, Pam.
John?
So I'm sorry. My understanding was that it was oxygen and water coming in contact with the lithium in the field battery that could spark a
Yeah,
fire.
I mean, like the thing, like what I mean to say
Because
is it's
because
not
when
like a
you have
typical fire triangle that needs like fuel, oxygen, and my gosh, ignition. You know, like it's not. There's no. Oh wait, no, there's no ignition that happens. It's not like you. It just it can be like a puncture. Like a puncture is not ignition, and so in a sense, it is like. Yeah, like you know, you could say that definitely it's like, you know, the puncture and then the oxygen gets in and stuff, but it's not like it's a thermal runaway instead of like a true fire. And I think I'll stop saying anything about it there because I don't understand the science of it. But what I
You get
do
into
know
it. Yeah.
is
It doesn't have
that
to.
is why
Yeah.
having it smothered is so important that, you know, like that thermal runaway event doesn't spark anything beyond
Exactly. You're just
the
trying to say
battery
that these
itself.
a damaged lithium or lithium ion battery is so dangerous that it can just combust, right? On its own sitting there.
Yeah,
Whereas a
it's
normal paper fire, you need those three things. You need someone
yes.
with a lighter, a piece of paper, and some oxygen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like when
totally get it.
when you see it happen, it's like not a fire, you know, it's like shooting
Hmm.
out sparks. It's like a thermal
Yeah.
runaway because it's getting so hot instead of like what we think of as like a nice campfire. And so
Yeah.
yes, I feel like that is the clearly my lack of knowledge of the battery chemistry of it. Um, yeah. But
Fun,
if
right,
anyone has
everybody?
any more questions, Pam, what were you going to say?
I just
No.
said we have already put in our order for call to recycle. Most of them want those barrels.
One
They're
drum.
excited about it because it's going to save them
Good.
so much time, and it also is going to save them a lot of worry about the fire.
Great.
So a lot less time, a lot less headache. But I have two towns that are like, no, 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 we want the boxes, and I still haven't figured out why. But
Hmm.
anyway, yeah, call to recycle, always great to work with.
Yeah, and it can shift in time, you know. Once they start getting so many batteries because we get the word out and it's so successful, they may say, "Oh yeah, I do want to move to the one drum," right? Um, yeah.
I
Any
have a
other
question.
battery
Oh, I
thoughts?
do. Well, it's not related to like damaged batteries, but I was in relation to like the battery blitz and you saying that you don't want schools to be a collection site. Not that the blitz itself is not like schools are long-term collection site, but what are your feelings on that battery blitz thing? Because there's I just got an email from Call to Recycle and they want to do it again, which it was super successful, but like what are like should we not?
No, I mean, I'm spouting off my opinion because I'm comfortable with you all, but and also, I mean, I voiced this to Call to Recycle and to you. It's if you feel like you have a controlled situation where you can do that and it works well. I know some of the negatives of that were there were teachers having to carry boxes to Staples at the end of their day. Um, Kids packaging and taping lithium ion batteries. Does it make me feel good? Not really. I'm not trying to be a downer, but there's a little anxiety there. But as the state, we don't have anything that says you can't do that or you shouldn't, you know, I just would say be careful with it. And as you are, Rhonda, and you know what you're doing, you know your schools better than I do. Um, yeah, I'm just paranoid about the battery stuff, right? You know, and it's like connecting with the operators the past few weeks, hearing, oh yeah, this caught on fire, that caught on fire, I threw it in a bucket. And it's just like, yeah, it's a real thing. And so I
And
want
I
to be.
understand that, but these kids are carrying around these batteries, and I feel like having
Hmm.
them aware of the safety
Hmm.
is even better. But I
It
mean,
is. Yep.
but I don't
Yeah, I
want to
hear you.
be like I don't want and I'm saying
Hey,
me because like as if I'm the one making decisions, but but I don't want also like to go against like, you know, I don't want to be, I guess like, oh, CSWD's you know, I don't want to be that like,
You're
not
You're not.
Well, it's kind of like
supportive
sex
the
education, right?
general.
Maybe, yeah,
Like,
no.
removed.
But
But batteries are exploding, not, well, they are exploding literally, but like the use of them in schools are so, they're gonna have batteries. At
uh-huh.
least the facilities need to know how to deal with them. And to John, like maybe they were talking about being a collection because that's just a hot spot and it's so much more accessible than a transfer station with wacky hours. But yeah, if we don't teach a little bit about it, then it
I
could
think
become
it's
unsafe.
fine. You all go ahead and teach about it. And if you all want to do controlled battery blitz collections, that's great. I would encourage you to work with Call to Recycle, and I'm happy to assist in having SOPs for collection in schools. You know, Rhonda had some great suggestions after the last one. That, you know, just, yeah, we just need to be smart about it. And I don't think we should hide the problem. I totally agree. It's an issue. It's in everything we use. I didn't know there were smart glasses. I'm now looking at that like as another, and there's so many embedded battery devices out there. So yeah, it's not going away anytime soon, that's for sure.
Just don't encourage rogue battery blitzes without supervision.
Right. Yeah, there was lots of training that went into, it wasn't like, here you go, schools, here's some boxes. It was, you know, hands
And you
on,
had a
you
DD
there.
kit on hand in case one came in, right, Rhonda? And you knew, you know, you could bring it to the environmental depot. You had a solution for that. Not everyone has like that direct, you know, setup. So
True. Yeah, they were informed to as soon as they found like a puffy battery, like put it in a bag, give me a call, I'll be there that day to pick it up.
mhm.
But I mean, we collected in like 4 weeks. It was like, was it 6 schools? And it was 4,100 pounds of batteries and raising
Awesome.
awareness in the community. And I think that was like the larger learning of just like teachers
Agreed.
too. I mean, there were some logistic issues that I don't think Call to Recycle understood, despite me saying like it's not just, you know, Chittenden County is like, you know, densely populated, but some of these schools are way out there and they don't have like UPS pickup or, you know, so hopefully that will be resolved, and that's hopefully what this meeting will be about. But I didn't want to go ahead with it if like the state was like, ugh.
No, there's no,
Okay.
it's just Mia spouting off because I'm crabby. That's all.
Oh, all right.
John and Andy, you both had your hands up.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. I was kind of, if it's working out, Rhonda, and you're harvesting that many batteries, it's awesome. But I was really surprised when you told me that Call to Recycle had engaged you in this effort, because when I first started, the Board of Supervisors was not in favor of this. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, Sean, that used to be a rep.
Sean Plath, yeah.
Sean Plath, yeah. And I actually worked with a school, Main Street Middle School here in Montpelier. They were collecting batteries from the larger community on an ongoing basis. And I said, guys, Call to Recycle does not want you to do this. And I got them to stop after a while. So I was really surprised to hear this, that they did this kind of 180-degree turn and were okay with school-based battery collection. I'm not going to do it myself. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, Rhonda. I'm not going to do it because the lithium battery issue and kids potentially bringing lithium batteries to school. I did talk to someone from Call to Recycle about it, and his thought was, hey, if you want to do it, just alkaline batteries, that's a possibility too, to just take the lithiums out of the picture. But I feel like, generally speaking, I'd rather work on having sites for the public within our solid waste district, to keep working on getting sites out there that'll accept the batteries, and keep schools out of the picture aside from their own internal battery collection.
Thanks, John. Andy?
Yeah, I guess one thing that just, having you said that, John, like just training and working with IT departments, right? Because they should be the ones, for like every school has computers, every school has an IT department. So just training them and just having them recognize, what do you need to do for, runaway stuff. And so just contacting them. And then, so that was one thing. But then Mia, I was wondering, do you recommend then having like a bucket for vapes, like not in elementary schools, right? But like high schools, middle schools, a bucket for
It's in
vapes.
elementary schools.
What's that?
And they're starting to find them in elementary schools too, but sorry, go on.
Oh, I was hoping not. That's too bad. But like having a bucket of sand for vapes and a separate one for batteries, like you'd want to separate them because of the hazardous nature of the nicotine, right?
I would just have a bucket for vapes. I would work with, if I were a school, I would connect with my solid waste district and I would talk about shipping the vapes through the household hazardous waste program, working with the vendor. And I would keep a bucket for vapes. It doesn't necessarily have to have sand in it. That would be my vape bucket. And then anything that's damaged goes in the sand bucket and you get it out of there ASAP is how
Okay.
I would roll with that. So intact vape devices in a bucket, marked vape devices, and work
Yeah,
with one of you.
so I'm just gonna give a shout out to Andrew Young's too, that schools can reach out to about hazardous waste because nicotine vapes are P-listed hazardous waste. When schools collect them, they cannot just be disposed in the trash. Because of that, I believe that, yeah, like, they can only collect a certain amount of pounds. I don't think that will be a limiting factor for schools. They won't be collecting that much, but I believe they can only keep acutely toxic hazardous waste on site for 6 months at a time. I think it's like 180 days. Um, but again, like we're not hazardous waste. I just recall reading it somewhere in a conversation with one of the schools that only had vents available to them. And so, it actually turns out that that school system has a contract with Clean Harbors, and so it might be okay. But if
And
your
that you all
school,
could help facilitate. If you only do events, you can still connect them with your contractor. And that contractor can work with them, like Shannon's saying, directly. Because the schools have them and they're calling us, as you know. They're sitting on them too. They're under the desk with the swollen batteries. Um,
yes, Rhonda, if you can share the vape resource that you made. And we do also have one from our hazardous waste program about, it's just like a general vaping devices and has information about schools. It doesn't say anything about like the 180-day thing I just mentioned, and that's why I would say to confirm with Andrew Young, schools should also be having EPA ID numbers, and he is great contact for them to get that ID number. And that way, and because like obviously we are solid waste professionals and hazardous waste professionals have a different wealth of knowledge. Um, and just to make sure that they're doing things in accordance as they should. Uh, he's great to follow up with. Um,
So I have a
yeah.
question, Shannon. So since this whole thing with the EPA ID number came up, we've been sending out information like Drew's newsletter that was super helpful, a lot of information in it to the schools. We sent them to the superintendents, the principals, and all of the schools. It's been, I would say, at least 2 years. And every time we go to do school outreach, that comes up. Did you get your EPA ID number? To the best of my knowledge, not one of them has done it. So I just wonder if A&R can do some kind of follow-up to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and so in the past, we've talked about this with Has Waste, and it's a priority thing. In terms of they're not too worried about the schools, right? There's larger generators in Vermont that they really need to focus on getting into compliance. It comes up when the school shows up at one of your events. or
Yeah.
at your one of your facilities and doesn't have an EPA ID number, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the only time it gets recognized.
Yeah.
So I feel like Pam, you're doing your due diligence, you're reminding schools they should have one. Not all schools may, have hazardous waste every year, right? That they're getting rid of to bring to you, so it doesn't come up until it's needed. But if there's any kind of question, Drew's great, but also Wendy Edwards can help a school. Sometimes schools already have an EPA ID number, but they don't realize it because so and so left. And
I
she can just
asked
look it up
Drew.
in the system.
I
Yeah.
did ask Drew. None of them have it. Um, so, okay. And I mean, honestly, we'd be hard pressed if a school showed up a hazardous waste event and send them back, even if they don't have it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna get myself in trouble today.
No, I know. I
Don't send
know.
schools away.
Yeah, I know. I
Feel
know.
it
I know.
Monday morning.
I know. I had one contact us. We just did school outreach, and the principal, okay, can you see me banging my head on the wall right now? The principal said that he wished that there was more notice of these events so that they could get their stuff to the events.
Mm.
And how would they know more about it? Okay. Yep. Let's see. It's only been like 20 years. We put this in the newsletter that goes to every resident. It's on our Facebook page. It's on our website. It's on all the town websites. And it is in the town report of every single town. And you don't, and he wishes there were more of them. Fantastic. So, yep,
Mm.
that's me beating my head against the wall.
Job security, right, Pam?
Well, all right. Does anyone have any more questions about batteries at schools? Mia can hop off and continue all the
Be a
other.
crabby elsewhere. Thanks for dealing with me, everybody.
Thanks, Mia.
Thank you.
Have a good morning. See ya.
And I think just because it's a similar topic, Rhonda, if you could share a little bit more about your Call or Recycle partnership. I mean, obviously we learned a little bit about it. Like, it is interesting, yeah, that Sean was against the idea, originally. So obviously you've thought quite a bit about this over the years and was just requested to do it again. So yeah, if you want to share anything with us, please do.
Yeah, they reached out. They're like, all right, well, we've worked with, there's something, they want to like kind of put this out there nationally, was my understanding. I mean, again, it was like a pilot thing. And I think, again, next in the 2026, we're going to do another one. I think the idea is to start it on National Battery Recycles Day or National Battery Day or whatever it is. But the idea is like to hone in how the things are working because we ran into some hiccups last year, not major, not super major ones. But they reached out and folks at CSWD thought it was like, oh, this is a great idea. It's a great, kids, as you guys know, are a great way to raise awareness in the community. And so basically we wanted 10 schools. We had 6 schools that signed up, 8 teams of students. Some of those teams were, just like one class. Some of them were 2 classes. Some of them were grade levels, like 5th grade, and then they had like 2 teams. They had 2 teams at a school. So like Champlain Elementary were like the 5th graders and the 4th graders. So there was some like inter school competition as well as competition outside. And then they had I think it was 4 weeks, which might be a little long, but like 4 weeks to collect the batteries. They could just collect them from school. Some kids, there was money involved too. So there was like a Call to Recycle ponied up $1,000 for the top school, $750 for second place, $500 for third place, and $250 for fourth place. And on top of that, a pizza party. So there was an incentive as well to participate and to win. But there were kids that were, going out door to door in their neighborhood, explaining what the batteries were, and what were in the batteries and what batteries they were looking for, and collecting them. And so that way, able to raise awareness throughout the neighborhood. And then ultimately, what happened was I went in and I taught 2 lessons to each team. So the first one was just a general trash talking in the 3 R's, is what I call it. And just, what goes where and why is it important we sort our stuff out. And then the second one was specifically on batteries. A future built on batteries is what we called that one. And talk about where do batteries come from? Um, what are they made of? And where do they go when we're done? And also the importance of powering down your stuff to save the life of batteries so that we don't have to recycle as many. And then in that was a sorting exercise. So I brought a whole bunch of batteries. They broke out in like little teams, and we sorted through the batteries, picking out the different chemistries, sorting them out into categories, which is nice because that's part of learning as well. And then taping the ones that needed to. I made posters that was very explicit from our drop-off centers as well, our transfer stations, but very explicit on like what the batteries were. But of course, there's so many different kinds of batteries that they found batteries that I was like, I'm not sure what that. I'm not. They weren't a picture, I should say. So I had to add them to the picture catalog, and then they would tape them up and put them in the boxes. And so we got some hands-on training. Each of the teachers had to go through each of the teachers of the teams, I should say, had to go through Call to Recycle's like online training, so they knew how to safely handle the batteries. I brought in damaged batteries so they could see what I meant by puffy batteries, so that they could be like, as soon as you find those, put them in a plastic bag, give me a call, pick them up. We went over all of the safety protocols and little I call them baby one drums, but for the damaged ones, if they had more than say just like one. But yeah, and then off they went. And then I was available to go in and help sort. So I went to a bunch of different schools and helped them sort. Always available for, questions and so on, for them to ask. So as was Called to Recycle staff. So they came up from DC, Matt, is it Stevens, Matt something or other. I can't remember his last name right now, but came up from DC and went around as well with me. So I introduced him to all of the classes. And we went over again. So that was like a third time, actually, or the second time we went through the batteries, so that the kids were familiar with what was going on. So we had anywhere, there was second graders, which I know seems very, very young. However, the teacher has been collecting batteries at this school for a very long time. So she's very skilled and knows what she's doing. So that's why I was like, we could trust that they're going to handle it well. But up to I think sixth graders were the oldest. And like I said, in 4 weeks it was 4125, I think, 4,125 pounds of batteries. And there were some logistics because UPS wasn't picking up the batteries from the schools, and said they weren't going to pick them up. And then I think that got resolved with some schools anyway. Call to Recycle, because we use personally CSWD, we use FedEx for our batteries, but or used to when we shipped them in boxes. But so I don't know why they decided to do UPS, but anyway. And Canada has been doing this, like Call to Recycle Canada, partners with Earth Rangers. That's how this kind of all kicked off. Partners with Earth Rangers in Canada, and they have been doing this for like a decade. School battery blitz. So I think this year it's going to be a little different as far as education, because that was 2 classes for. At the time, it was 11 teams. We had a couple of teams drop out over time, but or didn't actually send in their batteries. But so it was like 22 classes I had to teach on top of like my normal schedule. So it was a lot. So I think we'll just go to the battery lesson. But I think that was really helpful to raise awareness with the kids too. Like, and it's I think a way to get into schools. There were some schools that I had not, one school I should say, that I had not been to before. So it was a way to get my foot in the door with a school that I hadn't visited regularly. So that's that.
I wonder if the money prize helped get that school's attention that, had
Oh.
never been in touch with you before. That is pretty cool to
Yeah.
know that, like, 4 out of the 8 schools were able to sort of feel that extra positivity from it, in
Mhm.
addition to helping the environment.
Yeah,
Um,
the top winner, Underhill Central, they're a small school, but they're taking their $1,000 prize. They're taking everybody to the Flynn, which I think is pretty awesome.
yeah, that is really neat. Um, and I'm glad that you're able to chat with Mia about it, and to confirm that, like, yeah, no, we're not. A&R isn't like against it. Obviously, Mia has some opinions about safety and stuff, but I mean, you've put in a lot of work over the years to feeling it out and making it happen. Um, and yeah, no, it is pretty cool that you're able to do that. Does anyone have any questions for Rhonda?
Not Ferranda, sorry, but a couple names were mentioned, and I think it was in relation to EPA numbers for schools, and this is kind of a new thing for me. My hypothesis around schools dropping off at HHW is it's individual teachers with access stickers with us who don't use the name of the school, and therefore they sidestep that. But in terms of having the right kind of resources for me, Drew, Wendy, Edwards, who are these people and what do they have to offer?
Oh, they're the hazardous waste program connections, and they work with schools across the state to help them manage their hazardous waste. And so, yeah, solid waste counterpart in the hazardous waste.
Are they DEC then?
Yeah. Hmm.
So I could just find them and see what they've got.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to get my ducks in a row.
Yeah, and as Mia mentioned, it's not any of your responsibility to do anything other than just let them know that it's something that they should get. This is a hazardous waste program thing. That's why I don't know much about it. I also, when I mentioned it to schools, they were like, what is that even? Even yesterday when I mentioned it to the school, they were not aware that that was a requirement. And this was the supervisory
Right.
union maintenance facility director that I was speaking to, who had been there for 4 years. Um, and so, and they have a contract with Clean Harbors, who I would think, request that information, because
Yeah, interesting.
yeah, now that I think about it a little more deeply. Yeah. And so maybe they do have one and he's just not aware. And there's someone at the tech center because the tech center that they have in the community is where a lot of their materials are generated. And so certainly, um, depending on the size of your school, if they do have some type of tech center, it might make sense for them to have a contract where people come and pick it up. But that's only, I mean, bigger schools, I think. Um,
So, what we do get a lot of is that when you bring up the conversation about them generating hazardous waste, they don't think they do. Oh, we don't have a hazardous waste. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
yeah,
do.
yeah. And I think that's just sometimes like a lack of understanding that, like,
Right.
even if you have a 7th grade science class that hasn't been cleaned out for quite some time, there's probably hazardous waste in there in a jar where there's some specimen of animal. Like, I remember my 7th grade class specifically had a cabinet of all that stuff, and I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
That they
Or
had the
just
cabinet of,
cleaning
like,
supplies, just the cleaning
yeah,
supplies that they have just for the school, even if they don't even have science labs.
yeah. And well, some of the cleaning supplies, if they're using greener
Yep.
choices, cleaning supplies,
Yep.
they wouldn't be hazardous waste. They would be managed through hazardous waste collection programs, but in itself, they are not hazardous because they're not corrosive or reactive,
Right.
like they don't actually meet like that definition. And so, yes, like they do have products that would be managed through their hazardous waste collection, but it might not be like, ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a nuance that you really only think about when you really think about what hazardous waste regulations are. Because as you as you probably are aware, like a lot of the things that you all collect at hazardous waste facilities might not actually fit into those definitions of truly hazardous. If it has a pH of 11.5 instead of 12, it's not hazardous. It's not corrosive by the definition. Because that's certain pHs and stuff. Yeah, but that's getting into the weeds of that. Sorry, I've been thinking about HHW EPR a little too much lately. Um, but now moving on, thank you, Rhonda. I think, it seems like we can close out the conversation about batteries. And John, you said that you would like to speak about the work you've done reaching out to custodial staff recently. So yeah, if you could take it away, anything you'd like to share.
I just so what our SWIP, I'm assuming the language on our current SWIP and the new SWIP, 5-year SWIP that's coming up, I'm assuming the language in them for school outreach is going to be very similar across different solid waste districts. And the new SWIP says pretty much what the one that's at the end of its 5-year cycle says, is it's really outreach to adults that counts when we're working with schools. And I'm just curious. I mean, I have some ideas I've developed for continuing my outreach to either administrators, facility staff, or food service staff. But I'm just curious, like, if this would be worth discussing what other folks are going to be doing going into the next 5 years to reach these adult audiences around EPR programs, school-wide waste reduction and diversion programs, that kind of stuff. Universal recycling law. Yeah. I don't know, folks, if you want to discuss it, if it'd be worthwhile, or do you want to go back to the recyclables and plastic bags kind of stuff?
Well, I think they're sort of similar, like themes of discussion, right? Like, for example, when I yesterday was working with the town of Hartford, a newer employee, to help her learn about school outreach. And that's, I haven't, like I said, I haven't visited a school in a very long time. And so it was a very eye-opening conversation. Well, at first I reached out to the supervisory union level. Hartford in a sense is unique because it's just one town. But if you can start at that highest level, someone who can help you make the connections to who is appropriate in each school, that can definitely help too. It is interesting, like different schools sort of, and the supervisory unions, I should say, probably have different levels of understanding about what's going on at their individual schools. And so ultimately, like, having a contact who can speak to the decision making within each individual school is best. But I do think there's a benefit reaching out to the supervisory union as well, because we were able to go and visit 2 schools in one day that had different custodial staff, but still tour both schools, see the operation, see how they sorted things, hear some of their concerns about the differences between the middle school and the high school. But yeah, ultimately, I
I think
think
it's
like,
really helpful. I think it would be really helpful if we could get the supervisory unions to do some of this outreach for us, instead of us coming from the bottom up, of having it come from the top down.
yeah, well, I mean, do it for you in a sense, collaborate with you. Some of them would be more open than others, I think, to that. This gentleman was very open to talking with state regulators, which was great. And that's a benefit of you all not being state regulators. Yeah, certainly
I think
I
it's
do
like
think
not a
top down.
benefit. I think they talk to you because you're a state regulator. Like
Well,
sometimes I feel like it's because we're not state regulators, even though like for CSWD, we do regulate things, but getting responses, period, sometimes can be challenging.
Yes. Well, I will say
Yeah.
in this instance, I did get some feedback that he was saying his predecessor told him when A&R reaches out to you, don't respond to their emails. Just don't even talk to them. And he responded to me so fast, and I was like, well, I really appreciate you having a conversation about this, because it may end up that I reach out and I say, don't bag your recyclables. Or ultimately, I will be reaching out and saying we should talk about a plan for getting food scrap location all throughout the school, because like we both understand what the situation is, that food scraps are like everywhere throughout the school. It's not just back in the cafeteria. Like I was thinking post COVID that maybe that was true. Um and yeah, and so I do think that's a great place to start. And again, I know some of you have more schools than others, and like outreach to students is great, but if you just focus on the custodian for that minimal requirement, that's often what I would do. Is like I'd go into some schools and not chase down the custodian if I'm just doing an after school program with the kids, because it's like I'm just building that relationship, and I had already done outreach with a certain amount of schools, and so I feel like, yeah, like still enjoy working with students. I know, like I know that, yeah, we don't blatantly say in the SWIP that that's a requirement, because different SWMEs have different capacity. Um, but yeah, we did feel it was important to point out the conversation should be with people who can make decisions on school-wide scales. I just talked for a little long. I apologize, but um yeah, and I will always be a fan of saying like the summertime the custodians are there and the students are not, and they are typically more responsive during that time. At least maybe in larger schools where they do have them in the summer. I'm not sure that is true for every school. Um, and I see John is typing, but I mean, certainly. So going back to the bagging recyclables, like I get a sense that talking with Casella, like, DEC reaching out to them and just saying, like, we're seeing this concern. What is your messaging? Is this messaging told? And I have received feedback from Casella in the past about, their drivers and the difficulty of just like training across the board. Um, so I do understand that, but this is a really important message that um I know I personally want to figure out, like, and be able to say with confidence, yes, I have this message directly from them. Um, but yeah, because it does seem like it's an issue. And Paula, yes.
I was just wondering if the bagging issue is MRF related, or is their system consistent but as you say, the training is off. Because I know that we don't always know exactly which material goes to which MRF. I mean, down where we are, it all goes to Rutland. That's fine. But I know you get toward the middle of the state, and if you're not real careful, sometimes it'll go to Chittenden County or it'll come to Rutland. It's not entirely certain. So I was just curious if Casella has a standard procedure, or is it MRF specific because of the level of technology available at that given facility?
I think, well, it's a few things. I don't believe it's MRF specific, unless the MRF is employing additional people to open up the bags. And so, like, I as I understand it, I don't believe their messaging is bagged is okay. If they do receive stuff in bags, there are some people who may be opening it, but ultimately it's just going to get caught in the systems. Like as soon as it reaches that part of the sorting that uses air and blowers and fans. And so as I understand it, plastic films are just like across the board, not friendly with MRF technology. But then again, I'm not sure because it's like yeah, that's sort of the confirmation that I'm looking to hear from them is like, no, we don't want these at either of our Vermont facilities. It's like, all right, well then your messaging, then all of your drivers need to be aware of that. Like we need to be informing customers of that. Like it says on your totes, don't bag recyclables. It says on some outreach materials. I'm pretty sure. I'm not actually, I should check on that. Chris, I feel like you're saying something, but you're on mute.
I'm just saying no bags, right?
Oh,
I've never heard just, yeah, no bags. I've never heard of
okay.
it. They take bags unless it's a very special case in any MRF. I don't know, Rhonda, you work at a MRF in your hands up. What were you going to say a similar thing?
I was gonna say absolutely no bags. They're
Right.
pulling bags off and when they find them, they're just throwing them in
They
the
throw 'em
trash
away. Yeah,
because they don't
Yes,
have,
yes.
I mean, they're trying to sort through, 24
So much.
gallons are heading past them every second. They
Right.
don't have time.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it's technology or not. And the MRF that I was just at that was owned and run by Casella in Charlestown, Boston, basically,
Mhm.
that's what they do. Anything bagged, they just throw in the trash. They aren't ripping anything open. So that's why I'm like, I am like,
Yeah.
it frustrates me that the drivers are saying that. And I'm not saying it's Casella's messaging because it's not. It's just, and that the driver specifically, this one school said CSWD said it, and I'm like, we definitely did not say it. And I know Casella does
Yeah.
not want bagged stuff.
Yes. 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 It's like we all know. We all know. Like, why don't the schools, why aren't they getting the messaging? Because it's like it's an entire district that is doing this. And I don't like to be the bearer of news that they need to revamp their entire system and problem solve. Which is ultimately like, I mean, sometimes I like to be that because it's like some of it's easier than others, but this is like, oh, you're right. Things are dirty. And they've tried so hard to really sort things out appropriately from all the students. And so it's like they've put in so much effort into it, and then to realize that the system that they built is inherently wrong, um, is difficult news to give, but ultimately I just want to give transparent, correct news. And they need to make a decision about their systems with that correct news. And then how Casella interplays with it is sort of separate. Like the fact that they haven't ever said anything is sort of separate. It's like, well, we know how the system works and how it's upheld and how these materials actually get recycled. And it doesn't involve bagging it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's reflected in their billing and someone's not paying attention either, Shannon, right? Like, I don't know.
I would think they say it somewhere, and that's where I wish he had. It's like they're such a major player in the state, that yeah, it's like,
Oh, I'm into the
it's
schools billing, right? Like, are you
yeah.
rejecting recycling? I don't know.
No, they did mention rejecting food scraps once and not picking them up and giving no notice to the school for like weeks until the school reached out. And so yeah, I'm not sure, yeah, what they might say in the billing. I do know of other haulers that will they'll give fines when they see things like mixed in. And so like, but I'm not aware that Casella does that. Alex?
Yeah, I've been frustrated in the past by like being somebody who's in the industry, trying to call around and get the right answer and getting different answers from different people within one company. So I'm wondering if we could use our collective resources for like, Paula was saying her district, everything goes to Rutland. That makes it simple. Same for us. Um, I have schools that'll call Casella's main line and get one answer. But then I found a sales rep that I jived with at like an outreach event in Brattleboro. And he's like, yeah, just use my number. So I've been like giving out his number for accurate information about certain things, whether it's recycling or compost. For instance, one school was like, I don't know where they heard it. Maybe it was Rutland's main line, not the sales rep. This is about compost. You can't put compostable products in the compost, but all of those compostable products from that specific school were coming to us. So we were like, why did they say that? And my sales rep guy was like, oh, they just play it safe on the main line, but call me. I'm the one who represents you. So could we generate a list of like, if you're in this area, this is where your compost goes. Here's a trusted contact. And also aside on the bag thing, like I talked to Joe Sulia, who manages the Rutland, and for shredded paper, he said, put it in clear plastic bag. So it's like there is different information at these different MRFs, but knowing who to talk to, who you're going to get the right answer from, because Casella is multi-state. You know, you don't know who you're going to get. And I've called the main line so many times, asked a question. They're like, great question. That's so important to know that. We're going to get back to you within the week. And I never hear back from them until I met this one sales rep who's been with the company for 8 years and has a clear understanding of where materials move. And he's like, no, just talk to me. So when schools reach out to me saying, hey, is this true? I say, this is who you trust. Like, who do
So
we
kind of,
trust? Who has the right
kind of,
information?
so kind of an aside to that, Alex, I met with Kelly Gleason, playing the new kid on the street, right? Like I'm new, I don't know what's going on. So she said to me that Casella is going to a model where they're having a rep follow each solid waste district. And I think they're more concerned at like Chittenden and Central Vermont. But I mean, I can follow up with her, and she hasn't shared that list with me. But I mean, they're thinking about that. I don't know if Rhonda or John has heard anything like that, but she did mention that. And Rhonda, I think a little bit with you guys, it's competition, right? Like you're competition for them. I got the impression, like for food waste in particular, they want to follow what you guys are doing closely with your regs and your ordinances. So
We
that
don't
was
collect, so.
correct, but I don't know. That's how she phrased it to me. So anyway, I can follow up with her and see if they are going to that model, because I think that would get to your point, Alex, that, it'll be a little bit more specific and a territory. So I can do that.
Yeah.
Might end in nothing, but she did mention that to me.
And I do just want to add before Pam, I actually think that'd be really interesting. For each SWME to have a representative from Casella that they can reach out to, because Casella is such a large player and there is so much vertical integration between their
Right.
hauling services and their facilities and the landfill. Like they are moving so much material. And so ultimately, like if there's any flux in the system, they'll move material some other place. And so we can maybe say, can you provide us a snapshot of like where materials flow from different parts of the state? But they may in the end say like this isn't true all the time, if there's fluxes at the Chittenden MRF, more things might have to go to Rutland, where they bring food scraps. Certainly where they bring food scraps, I'm really interested in, because as we know, the Long Trail facility accepts compostable materials. And it's like I don't really have a sense of like what net they grab food scraps from that go to that facility, so that when I do outreach to Killington Ski Resort, I can say to them with confidence, yes, you can use these compostable materials. Or no, you cannot, because your material isn't going to Bennington, which is actually the case there. I forget who I was talking to that could use it, and I was trying to confirm that with them. Um, yeah, and so I think that and then a Casella representative for swimmies, if that conversation is going, that would be a great thing to follow up with them on. And just letting them know that we have these concerns tied to educating and outreach to the public. Um, because they're concerned about the flow of materials as well. A little bit public stuff than school stuff, but Pam.
So I've been getting complaints from my towns that Casella has gotten so big that they try to call and get information either just about what you're talking about or billing, and they get stuck in like a voicemail loop, and they just never get a call back from Casella. So it would be super helpful if there was actually a real person with a real telephone number that we could have to utilize.
Well, I will say, like, this is totally up to Casella and how they want to engage with customers. Like, Swimmies having a contact to answer questions might not translate to the public
To the
getting to
public.
reach out to that person.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, like their customer service, how they run that in their organization is like completely separate than us having a contact to be more transparent
Okay.
about what they're doing. I would suspect that if this happens, it would not be advised from Casella to give that number out to the public. That's just my
I see.
assumption.
Yeah.
And of course, like I can't assume. I just know like if they wanted customer service to be easy, they'd figure out a way to like actually answer people.
Yeah, so
Um,
they used to be super about customer service, really. But like I have this one town who's gotten incorrect billing. They were billed for single stream or zero sort, and they're actually doing source separated, and it's a big difference in the price. And their bill is much higher because of that. So for 4 months, they have been trying to get to Casella to get their bill fixed, but they finally just said, we're not paying the bill, and then they'll contact us eventually saying you didn't pay the bill.
I feel like that's like
Which
a
has,
better business bureau type like complaint.
I don't know,
Like,
it has nothing to do with school outreach at all,
yeah.
so it's just more of a Casella comment.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what third party organization might be able to help oversee some type of like I just think Better Business Bureau because I
They're just
recall.
not going to pay their bill, so as soon as Casella figures that out, they'll call and figure it out. And I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll fix it eventually, but not good business practice.
Yeah, does the AG
Um,
handle municipal complaints? They certainly handle consumer complaints too, Pam. I don't know if they have a municipal complaint line.
I don't know.
The Attorney General.
Yeah, I can tell them that.
I'll look it up right now because I know they have for citizens. I don't know if they would handle it for a municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Paula.
Yes, just to say that Kelly Timbrook is the contact with Casella at the Long Trail Organics facility. And I've worked with her quite closely recently to help put together the Garlic Town USA food collection, food scrap collection, organics collection during its event in August. And she's been very approachable just to say, hey, give me a holler if you've got questions about what's coming where. She'll tell you what towns, what municipalities are feeding into that facility if you're worried about making sure whether compostable serveware can be included in your collection or not.
Yeah, no, she has been very easy to get in touch with. Like Alex said, like the individual people.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I was
it's
just
just like
saying this.
knowing who, like when I'm going down a rabbit hole and I go on the website and like, oh, I guess this is until I found that person who represented compost services. And he was so easy to work with, and he told me, he's like, yeah, tell your folks that I'm the one to talk to, that Rutland is not going to give you accurate information about the compost. But yeah, if we're on the industry together, we're all working together, we're meeting, every so often, we should have our own resources about like, where do we get accurate information? Because when we're running around and doing goose chases, it just makes us look bad. And it's like, we should know these things and we should share them with each other. And I know that there's not a lot of cross district stuff. Some rules are different, but yeah, I mean, Paula and I share Rutland. So, and it sucks too, because you have these conversations with folks and you're like, yes, I finally got it. And then I'm going back through my notebook. I'm like, what the hell was his cell number? I don't know how to find this person anymore. It's not listed on their website, but he did tell me on the phone I could call anytime. So, yeah. So like having Joe Sulia has been helpful for me. Having this guy Tyler in Brattleboro who works with businesses around composting and knows where each of
Tyler,
the
yeah.
businesses where they go to, because it's either us or it's Long Trail, depending on how far west they are. And that's lucky for me because Long Trail has very similar requirements for their compost as us.
Yeah. Tyler, I think it's the same contact I've been talking to. He like does the 91 corridor.
Right, exactly.
Really easy to get in touch with as well. But not for
But
all
getting that card
communities.
took a physical face-to-face interaction, which was like totally by chance. So I was just lucky I was in a great mood that day to like jive with people. Because great individuals, just tough, big company to find answers online or through a phone number that's listed online.
Well, with the last few minutes that we have, I would like to chat, like I mentioned, about centralized food scrap collection in schools. If anyone has any anecdotal success stories or non-success stories, like what have you seen this happening? Yeah, students don't eat in the cafeteria. That was like a hard and fast rule when I was in school. So, Andy, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah. Interestingly, like you'd also mentioned about the Scrappy stuff, if we had time. So one of my schools for Scrappy, they are high school. And so during COVID, like everyone just left the cafeteria and they were just like all spread out. And so they had reusable compost or reusable serviceware, that would just be left outside and like they'd find it broken in the parking lot because kids were just like leaving them out there. And so they lost all of their utensils, all of their silverware, all of their bowls. And so they're just like, all right, so they went back to, disposable stuff. So for Scrappy, they sort of refocused on what they wanted to do. And so one of the things was create a more centralized eating place, sort of like consolidating where people can eat, consolidating where people dispose of their stuff, like, kind of like trying to centrally locate things. And I think that's been pretty successful for them. I'm trying to put my thing here. Yeah, so they're trying to like implement like like trash magnets, and so they can capture some of that reusable silverware, so they don't use it. So I think part of their Scrappy grant was going towards purchasing some stuff for their disposal and diversion infrastructure at the school. And so I think so far it's been pretty successful. Yeah, and the other thing too is like they realized like after looking at it, not a lot of their stuff was recyclable because of the contamination. So they've just sort of cleaned out their, like they're having like trash, recycling, compost, and like the recycling was just a mess. So they just actually cleaned it up and separated it. So they have like more compostable stuff, and more trash, but it's not like contaminating anything. So anyway, I think they felt pretty good about that. Yeah, so but that's it. So that's one of my schools. It's kind of interesting. I feel they felt successful, that they've seen changes and growth in their, education around it.
That's a great first start, and that is interesting that it was a part of their goal to get students to eat more centralized. What I heard was that like that's never going to change. Kids love it, but obviously, as you say, it's like it's a school-wide decision if they say going to the cafeteria, because that's what we have, and that's where everything is most organized. Then yeah, I guess it's a school culture thing that I don't really understand how it shifted over the years, but they've decided that there's a benefit to moving back to centralize all that waste management, um, which I probably will end up suggesting to this school as well. It's like, what policies can you have that kids aren't eating in the library? Because you need to have a food scrap collection in the library. Um, yeah. So, Rhonda, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of a high school in our district that eats in the cafeteria, like all in the cafeteria. One, I can think of 3 high schools, their cafeteria isn't big enough to house one lunch. So the kids have to eat elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, you have to go from the top to get any kind of change of like even with schools that do have a big enough cafeteria. And I don't think I have that clout to be able to be like, yeah, do this, have everybody eat in the cafeteria. Also, having compost all over the collection all over the place is not feasible when you've got 3 custodians for 1,000 kids. So, yeah, there's just like, I'm like, let's worry about one thing at a time. Like, I mean, Essex High School is one. Like they, I have to check in with them, but they might have gone to 5 lunches this year because 4 lunches was there was just not enough space for the kids. And they also have a lot of disposable stuff because of the same thing that Andy was saying. The kids are eating everywhere and they're just tossing it wherever or where. I mean, they lost $10,000 halfway through the school year just from red plastic baskets being missing. And so you
Okay.
can't,
So
yeah,
yeah, these are
you can't argue with that
Yeah.
sometimes where schools like, okay, I got it. Do your disposable thing. I mean, that's
Mhm.
like a least of my worries at this moment, to be honest with you. It's just like trying to work with them to be like, all right, I can't change the culture of the school. I can make suggestions, which I always do, but like I can't change that. And I mean, requiring them to have, 8 different compost bins all over the school that who knows what kids are putting in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's yeah, it's like that. Yeah, that high school thing is a huge challenge. I've not run into it at the middle school as much. Middle school and lower, they're typically all in the cafeteria, but kids in high school can also leave school grounds. So it's like it's very interesting the different dynamics that one has to contend with, and it can be frustrating to be on this side of like having to like try to collect as much as possible, but like how do you do that? And I'm working with the South Burlington High School green team because they came in hot, like we need to go to reusables and we need to do that. And their kitchen service person is like, you need to get people to use the compost and not trash it. That's where we should start. And so I'm working with them to be like, let's start small and show that students have accountability. And then maybe we can spread our wings to, way down the road to like reusables and stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, staff or kitchen staff and custodial staff aren't going to put extra effort in if there's no accountability on the kids' side as well to do the right thing or to treat their materials with like respect. I agree. It's to me, I'm like, I would have never dreamed of eating anywhere but the cafeteria in high school, but I have a question for Andy though. You said that that school had bought like magnets. Is the magnets for on their compost collection or on their trash or both?
I don't know. I think they were thinking for the trash, but
Yeah.
I don't, but I'll double check with them.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mhm.
Probably a benefit to putting them on both, truly. If they are going to make an investment and have the ability to retrofit the top of, the slot for both the materials. Um, well, I'll share a little bit of an update from my scrappy school. I'm working with the Westminster School. Their ideas have sort of shifted over time. Because originally they were thinking of trying to do an on-site composting system. They also had some misinformation about like what was happening with their food scraps. They actually thought they were being collected as compost, but just being mixed in with the trash. And so, I reached out to the hauler to clarify that no, that is not happening, and the material is going to the Wyndham solid waste compost facility. And so once they felt more confident, just having an understanding of how their materials were managed, I think they're shifting more towards color coded waste sorting stations, getting, better signage. They've already switched out single use cups for milk in the morning, and are using reusable ones. And so I think they're more just going to be focusing on the redesign and maybe incorporating a smaller compost, because they are also feeding chickens right now. And so it's like they have the chickens and maybe just a small thing where they can make a little bit of compost, use it as an educational tool. But I went in and I did a lesson on like landfills and natural resources, what things are made out of with K through 4. I'm going to be going back and doing a composting lesson, which I'm really excited about. I really do miss teaching classes. Like I have my 2 rules for all my classes. Like everything must come from somewhere and everything must go somewhere. And at first, like I'm like, I have 2 rules, and then and then I end up saying that. And so I have my little tricks that I was able to remember. But then on Halloween, we'll be doing a waste sort with the entire school, mostly witnessing it, not so much hands-on. But just, to get them to understand the importance of really actually thinking about our waste and seeing someone actually dig through their waste and get some data for the school to help them throw away less food scraps. I think recycling there is pretty good as it is currently. But yeah, with our next few minutes, does anyone else who's working with a school have anything to share? I'm not sure that anyone else here is working with a scrappy school.
I am
Oh, you are. Yes, Alex, sorry. You're working
with
with Guilford, right?
beloved Guilford, which I live in the town too. So it's like, it's just a really cool community. Like some of these things you can't replicate across different towns, but this school is of the belief that the community is their school. And, so there's a lot of tie-in. So with Rhonda's help, we successfully completed a trash on the lawn day. And I pulled up a graph so I can look at it because we have a really good scrappy team. It's me, the head custodian. There's only 2 custodians for this, and they're daytime, nighttime, and there's like no overlap. So that's weird. Me, custodian, the IT person who does technology. So she was great at like organizing all of the data from the waste audit trash on the lawn, and then the garden coordinator. So we're a cool team. Like I think that's a good spread of different knowledge and specialties. So the before sorting, it was like 48.3% of stuff was going to the trash. Almost 40% was going to recyclables, and almost 14% was going to compost. And then after sorting, we saw there was a lot in the trash that could have been composted. Trash zipped down to 28% of what we're like, yes, that's definitely trash. Recycling shrank to 20% because there was a lot of contaminated recycling. We talked about why that's a problem. And composting grew to about 38%. So like if it were sorted correctly. So we plan to do a waste audit. We've done one waste audit at the beginning of the year. Rhonda has a really great resource for conducting this. And it's like, don't tell the school that you're going to do it because you want to catch them in the act. But Sarah, our garden coordinator, is like coaching people. But we're going to do another one in spring to see like, did this stuff stick? And it came with recommendations and different ways that we could be composting more. Like for instance, the paper towels are totally fine for composting in our system because that's where they go. And so paper towels from the bathrooms could be included. Different colored bags would be helpful, having clear bags for recycling just so people can see it. And a lot of the kids were really moved by this. So we kind of set it up where we had tarps all over the lawn. I would greet observer kids, like each class would come and I would kind of give them the rundown of what was going on and just engage their curiosities based on what they wanted to know about in terms of trash recycling, compost. Meanwhile, we had small groups from the 4th to 6th graders cycle in and out to help hands-on sort. And it was really cool. And the kids came up with some good ideas and they want to, far in the future, they want to be getting chickens and feeding some of the scraps to them. They want to go to bulk milk if that's possible, and the principal's on board. We came up with an idea to have a hanging basket in each classroom for aluminum foil because they regularly use foil for sandwiches, but in one day they don't have enough to make a 2 by 2 inch ball. So they'd have a basket where they could put scraped away, no food related aluminum foil, and then when there's enough in there they can ball it up because they learned
That's a
that
good idea.
aluminum recycling is really powerful and important and saves a lot of environmental negativity. They were encouraging teachers to minimize their lamination efforts because that can't be recycled, so on and so forth. So it was really sweet. And they're going to do a bin monitor thing, so the kids who are really into it and wanted to continue this feeling would get bin monitor badges. But
That's great.
yeah, it was good. It was a good beginning of the year thing to do. I have a little slideshow. I don't know where I can share that with you folks because it's like just shared individually. That famous picture of the carrots in the landfill, that thing gets a lot of
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll be using that in my next lesson with the kids. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Especially if they're less than 10 years old. Yeah, I mean, you certainly can send that in to the school outreach listserv, and it will go to everyone in this meeting and beyond. We are at time, and I actually have to hop off to a little like lunch and learn thing. But I will be posting this to YouTube and sending it out as well. If you want to go back and rewatch anything. But I will also, unless anyone here says that they would like to host the next meeting, I can send out another doodle poll with some dates, putting us off, I guess, into the beginning of the new year. Yeah, like midwinter or so. And we can select a date and I can send out agenda requests at that time, unless anyone's like, yeah, I'll do it.
I'm happy to host. I mean, it shouldn't just be you guys, so yeah.
Yeah, well, we did sort of like there was like a little lapse because, with the August meeting that we canceled, and so we wanted to make sure to get it back on track. And so I appreciate that, Rhonda.
Yeah.
If you would still like our help sort of finding the best time to schedule it, I can still send out a doodle poll to everyone. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I could do a doodle poll as well. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, great.
Or
Yeah, so
yeah, okay. Yeah, I can do that.
perfect. So Rhonda will be sending that out to the group. Thank you. And we'll choose a date and set an agenda, and yeah, there'll definitely always be something to talk about with school. So thanks everyone. I wasn't expecting the meeting to last an hour and a half, so I'm glad we had a bunch of things to talk about. But have a great
Thanks,
day.
guys. Enjoy
Thank
the
you
day.
all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.